Hello! Welcome to my channel. My name is Mariah. I don't know why I'm looking down for that. Excuse the wet hair. I just got out of the shower. And my curls ain't dry yet, so I can't scrunch them. I don't know where that accent came from. Sorry for that. But it's been a while since I made a real video, that wasn't just an update about what's going on in my life, like a real video on an actual subject. So I wanted to do one. This time I want to talk more about stigma around mental illness. And I have one in particular that I do want to talk about a little bit towards the end. But first, yeah, I have some statistics and stuff that I want to show you, talk about around mental illness and stigma related to it. So let's start. As I've talked about before, obviously mental illness and mental health, they're hand in hand. Anyway, it's hugely stigmatized. We're doing better than ever before in history, that's for sure. Dear Lord, if you look at the history of what women in particular used to be put in mental institutions for, it's kind of ridiculous. They would, for getting angry or for having a period. Things are crazy that they used to get put in mental asylums for, mental hospitals. It's crazy. And they would be locked away forever and never let out, even though there was nothing actually wrong with them and they didn't need to be locked away forever. So we've definitely come a long way. We've definitely come a long way since then. But there is definitely still a long way to go. There's more treatments, services, and community support systems than ever before in history. But here's where we get into some statistics. I flip through my notes here and find the right ones that I wanted to share on this point. Here we go. According to the World Health Center, we're going to go with the NAMI first, or NAMI, however you pronounce it. NAMI, National Association on Mental Illness. It's a well-known, well-accredited organization here in the United States. And they say that mood disorders are the most common cause of hospitalization for people in the U.S. under age 45, excluding pregnancy and birth. And only 43.3% of U.S. adults with mental illness received treatment in 2018. So, they know they have a mental illness, but only 43.3% of those people received treatment in 2018, for the whole year. That's kind of crazy. And that's for adults. It's 50.6% of U.S. youth aged 6 to 17 with a mental health disorder received treatment in 2016. So for 2016, only just a tiny smidge over half of the U.S. youth from 6 to 17 years old that know they have a mental health disorder received treatment. And 60%, more than half, of the U.S. counties don't have a single practicing psychiatrist. That just kind of blew my mind to learn that, because how can you not have a practicing psychiatrist in your county? But apparently more than half of the U.S. does not. Half of the counties in the U.S. do not. So that's all according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, this really blew my mind. Less than half of the 139 countries that have mental health policies and plans report having these aligned with human rights conventions. So there are 139 countries that have mental health policies and plans, and less than half of those report having them aligned with their human rights conventions. That was huge. That's huge. That's ridiculously insane to me. I can't understand that. But aside from the countries that don't have proper support. Those numbers of people that aren't getting treatment is just staggering to me. Like, how could you... I don't understand not getting treatment, but you know, a lot of people, 43.3% of US adults and 50.6% of US youth didn't receive treatment in those years. But friends and family can make a big difference and can definitely be a big influence on helping people get the treatment and the services that they need. And also, just another little thing to throw in there, that despite popular opinion, mental health problems and illnesses have nothing to do with being lazy or weak, and most people need help to get better. That was a sentence taken from World Health Organization, from WHO. Also, most people don't realize how prevalent mental illnesses are. According to World Health Organization, let me go over here and find those facts. Mental, neurological, and substance use disorders make up 10% of the global burden of disease and 30% of non-fatal disease burden. That's a lot for world health. According to 1 in 5 of the world's around 1 in 5 of the world's children and adolescents have a mental disorder. About half of mental disorders begin before the age of 14. And almost 800,000 people die by suicide every year. That's one person every 40 seconds, which makes it the second leading cause of death in 15 to 29-year-olds. And where are my other... Okay. There we go. And then according to NAMI, however you pronounce it, NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Health, on mental illness. I always want to say mental health, but it's mental illness. Okay, according to NAMI, 4.6% of U.S. adults, this is just here in the United States, so 4.6% of U.S. adults experienced serious mental illness in 2018, and they have a category where it's like there's mild or normal, less severe, I should say, mental illness. I think that's how they describe it. And then there's like serious mental illness. So they're saying they experienced serious mental illness in 2018. Not 100% sure about their categorization, like what's considered what, but they're saying, I noticed... Start that sentence over. I noticed in my research that they were saying mental illness and then they were saying serious mental illness. So I took that as being two different categories. So this was serious mental illness, and that equals, so that's 4.6% of U.S. adults experienced serious mental illness in 2018. Excuse me, which is 11.4 million people. And, sorry, the annual prevalence of such things is, annual prevalence for a major depressive episode is 7.2%, which equals 17.7 million people. And this is just here in the United States. And for bipolar disorder, we're at 2.8%, which is 7 million people. For anxiety disorders, general anxiety, social anxiety, things of that nature, we're at 19.1%, which is 48 million people that are affected by that in a year, the annual prevalence. And 3.6% are affected by PTSD, which is 9 million people. Ugh. So that's a lot. That's a lot of people affected by these mental illnesses. And the overall, this was shocking to me, overall suicide rate in the U.S. has increased by 31% since 2001. So that was, like, really, really shocking to me. Because that's within, 18 years that's been? And that's not a very long time, and 31% is a huge, huge amount. But there are several specific mental illnesses that are stigmatized more so, even more so, and I think, this is just my own thoughts now, it's probably because they're harder for like a neurotypical person to understand and sympathize with, and they're less prevalent. So you're looking at like the statistics for OCD are only 1.2%, which was 3 million people in a year, and BPD is 1.4%, so that's 3.5 million people in a year. So I think they're just less prevalent, they're less around. You don't meet people that, readily. Well, you don't meet people that have these problems every day, probably, unless you know them specifically. And even then, may not know that they have that, or they might not even know that they have that. I don't know why I'm talking about that. But it's less prevalent, is my point. Excuse the rambling. Less prevalent and less readily understood than other mental illnesses. It's major depression is, to the general public, it's summed up as being overwhelmingly sad, and general anxiety is being overwhelmingly worried about things, like, for an extended period of time. And obviously there's more to it than that for either of those conditions, but like people can understand sadness or worried a lot easier than they can understand, illnesses like borderline personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, or schizophrenia. I did a little bit of research into it, and those three, it seems, according to national studies and stuff, get the most stigma. I was a little bit surprised. I thought it would be schizophrenia or DID, dissociative identity disorder. I thought one of those two would be the top one, like the number one most stigmatized one, but no, actually it's BPD, borderline personality disorder. People really stigmatize that and really, really do not understand it at all. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about BPD. It's one of the most misunderstood, misdiagnosed, and stigmatized conditions. Individuals experiencing borderline personality disorder are frequently labeled as treatment resistant and dropped as patients because even some mental health professionals have a stigmatized view of BPD. NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, classifies BPD as, let me read the paper because I have the actual paper. Symptoms. People with BPD, borderline personality disorder, experience wide mood swings and can display a great sense of instability and insecurity. Signs and symptoms include frantic efforts. Wait, before I go on, I just want to explain. There's in the mental health field, there's a book of actual how to diagnose these different mental illnesses, and there's different what qualifications people have to meet in order to be diagnosed with something, and this is their actual, from that book, the most recent one that was just released this year. So it's the most updated, most recent qualifications for what someone, they have to fall within these parameters within their life to I'm all out of breath for some reason. They have to fall within these categories, and I think it's they have to meet, I think it's 5 of them out of the 9. There's 9 of them total, but I think you have to have at least 5 of them be prevalent in your life in order for you to be classified as having borderline personality disorder, to get that actual diagnosis. So, signs and symptoms may include frantic efforts to avoid being abandoned by friends and family, unstable personal relationships that alternate between idealization and devaluation. This is also sometimes known as splitting. The way that this is often summed up, described, splitting, is I hate you, don't leave me. I don't know why I made such a weird face for that, but I hate you, don't leave me, is pretty much how that's summed up. So, distorted and unstable self-image, which affects moods, values, opinions, goals, and relationships. Impulsive behaviors that can have dangerous outcomes. Suicidal and self-harming behavior. Periods of intense depressed mood, irritability, or anxiety lasting a few hours to a few days. Chronic feelings of boredom or emptiness. Inappropriate, intense, or uncontrollable anger, often followed by shame and guilt. Dissociative feelings, disconnecting from your thoughts or sense of identity, or out-of-body type of feelings, and stress-related paranoid thoughts. Severe cases of stress can also lead to brief psychotic episodes. I don't know why I'm so out of breath right now. Weird. We're working with it here. So yeah, that's the 9 different symptoms that classify borderline personality disorder. Personally, I can tick most of those boxes. Maybe not the uncontrollable anger. Honesty time here. I get irrationally angry at a lot of things, a lot. Like, someone asks me to do something really simple around the house, and I'll be like, ooh, that makes me so mad that you asked me to do that, and then I'll have to, like, reel myself back in. No, that's not irrational. That's totally normal. They're totally not, like, nothing wrong here, and it's totally cool for you to go do that. Like, it's not a big deal. So I have to, like, check my anger a lot, because I will get... It never comes out, though. Like, I never express it. It's just all up in my brain that I have all these thoughts about that. But I have a lot of these other ones, too. I don't do that much splitting, though. And it doesn't, if I do, it comes off more as a, like, I just don't talk to that person for a while, or at all. Like, if I do split on someone, like, it comes off more as, like, I just don't really talk to them for a while, or whatever. I'm not really outwardly angry towards them, or disliking them, or whatever. It's not really, like, the don't hate me. I mean, I hate you part. Like, that part doesn't come up, really. Like, I don't really express it that much. But breathe. It's okay. Yeah, I get a lot of these other ones. Periods of intense depressed mood, irritability or anxiety, chronic feelings of boredom or emptiness, impulsive behaviors. As my parents well know, I definitely have impulsive behaviors that can have dangerous outcomes. I won't go into that, though. The suicidal and self-harming behavior is unfortunately a part of my life and has been for a very long time. Definitely the distorted and unstable self-image, which affects moods, values, opinions, goals, and relationships. That one's not really that severe for me. Like, it's there to a degree. Like, throughout my life, I've gone back and forth between a lot of different things. Like, I don't know if you can hear that on the video, but those boys are being very loud and crazy. But, like, I don't know. I go back and forth between a lot of different stuff a lot of the time. Like, I'll go through, like, I'm all about this thing right now, and this is like my everything right now, is whatever this is, whether it's, I went through a period of, I wanted to do hair and makeup and stuff, in particular the makeup, and I was like all about it. I wanted to do like all the time, every opportunity I had. I was all about like, let's do all kinds of crazy fun stuff with makeup. And then I was all about drawing at one point, where I just was, every opportunity I had, I was drawing pictures, and it was all really pretty. It really is, because I still draw sometimes, but, and my drawings are really pretty. But then I moved on, and it became more of a back burner interest. At one point in my life, I was all about sewing, where I was sewing all the time and making my own clothes, and that was awesome. I went through, anyways, this video is long enough as it is. I don't need to go through all of my different things that I've gone through. But and then, yeah, the dissociative feelings, I definitely get those from time to time. They're not, more recently, they've become more severe for me, but they haven't always been a big part. Like, in the past, it would just be like a few minutes where I would feel like this out of body, weird, like I'm not myself, like I'm watching everything through a TV screen, basically, kind of feeling. Like, it's really weird. It's hard to describe. But disconnecting from your thoughts or sense of identity, or out of body type of feelings. That's how they describe it. But yeah, it's like this really weird feeling. And it used to only be for a few minutes, but more recently it's been for like hours and hours at a time. And apparently some people like can go about their lives and fully function while dissociating and like enjoy it almost. But that's definitely not me. I become like completely incapacitated. I need to like go lay down, and sleep usually helps. Not always, I've found. Sometimes, it's very rare, but sometimes I will go take a nap and then wake up and still feel like I'm dissociating. But a lot of times a nap or just going to bed at night is what helps. Anyways. Okay, where was I? All right. And then there was this interesting, like, little fact thing that I found, that according to the National Mental Health Association, NMHA, National Mental Health Association, totally weird to say for some reason, only 27%, I don't have these statistics for BPD, unfortunately I couldn't find them for that, but for schizophrenia, according to the National Mental Health Association, only 27% of the general public believes that successful treatment exists for schizophrenia, compared to 47% of caregivers and 58% of sufferers. 50% of the general population thinks people with depression can hold jobs, and 49% of the general population thinks people with depression can raise families. But only 14% of the general public feels that a person with schizophrenia can do either of those things. Like I said, I couldn't find the statistics for BPD, but that's what they said about schizophrenia. So that really was shocking. Although I have to say, I don't know myself that much about schizophrenia, so I would probably have a stigmatized view of it myself because I don't know that much of it. But I imagine anyone is possible of raising a family and being a good person, and, no matter what, you're kind of can hold a job and raise a family and all of that. No matter what your mental health conditions are, like, get that under check, get some good treatment going on, whatever that looks like for you, get yourself checked, under control, all of that, and you could do anything you want with your life. Like, it doesn't matter. So yeah, anyways, that's all my notes that I have for this. Just putting it out there that these things are hugely, enormously stigmatized, and it's kind of like crazy how much they are. So hopefully talking about it, sharing it, whatever, talking about it with the world will hopefully open a few minds to see that, you know, not everyone is incapable of living a normal life, and you don't need to, I don't even know what I'm saying right now, but hopefully it'll help end the stigma or at least reduce it some. So anyways, this video is really freaking long, so I'm gonna end now because I don't want a 30-minute video and we're getting dangerously close. So, all right, thank you so much for watching. Come back next time, I guess. I'm so bad at ending my videos. I have no idea what to say. Thank you. Feel free to like and subscribe. That would help me out a lot. Yeah, trying to get this channel up. So like and subscribe. Recommend it to your friends. I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. So anyways, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.